Hey, did you know that the government might actually owe you money? Seriously, you might be owed hundreds, even thousands, and the government's not going to tell you about it. So today we're going to walk you through step by step how to get the money that should be yours. You need to understand what a big deal this is because 1 in 7 Americans has unclaimed money just waiting for them. That's more than 10%, right? There's more than $70 billion being held by the government that rightfully belongs to people all across the country. And a lot of people just don't know that this exists. Or if they know it exists, they just assume that, well, they probably aren't owed that much. It's probably only like $25 and maybe it's not worth their time. But according to Missing Money, the average claim is worth $1,154. That is a hefty chunk of change. So I'm just curious, what would you do with an extra $1,154? How would that change your life? That is a significant amount of money, and I am really curious to hear your thoughts on this. So as we move into this, I just want to begin with IRS refunds. I know a lot of the subscribers here on our channel are not required to file their tax returns, and I get it. But just because you don't have to file doesn't mean that you shouldn't file. Now, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, but I do know from what I have read that if you didn't file taxes in the last 1 to 3 years because you thought that you didn't need to, you might still be owed a refund or a tax credit. That money might still be yours, and it can be substantial. The Earned Income Tax Credit is worth $7,830, or up to that, depending on how many qualifying children that you have. But 20% of people who are eligible for that never claim it. That's 1 in 5. And then, of course, you've got the Child Tax Credit, which is worth up to $2,000 per child, and around 2.4 million people miss out on that. And then there's other credits available too, like the American Opportunity Tax Credit, which is for college students. It's worth $2,500 a year, and up to 40% of that is refundable, but a lot of people miss out on that one too. And this is just the beginning. There are others that you may qualify for as well. So if you think you may be eligible for some of this money, here's what you need to do. First, you can check your eligibility on the IRS website. You can find a link at lirlinks.com/EITC. And if I zoom out here for a second for you, I'll show you where that's going to take you. That's just a quick link that's going to redirect you to this IRS government page, right? And then you can click here. That will take you here to this Earned Income Tax Credit Assistant. Now, this isn't going to help you with the child tax credit or the other credits. This is just going to help you figure out if you qualify for that big earned income tax credit that so many people miss out on. You're just going to select your tax year, go through the prompts, and it'll end up telling you whether or not that's something that you may qualify for. If it is, then you just need to gather all of your documentation that you need and file your return. Now, I know taxes can be daunting, right? It can be hard to figure out how to do that. So another resource that I like to recommend is this, myfreetaxes.com. This is a free service by the United Way, and you can either file your own taxes, which is like a self-service, or you can have your taxes prepared for you. And when you come down here, if you're filing for previous years, you're going to need to have the taxes prepared for you, but you can submit all of this information to them and they can go ahead and help you with it. Now I want to talk to you about the Unclaimed Money database, and this is huge. This is where that $70 billion is held. So every single state holds an unclaimed property database. This is where forgotten checks, refunds, closed accounts, utility deposits, security deposits, and other money ends up when you can't be found. If you don't have a forwarding address, if you don't get this money when it's owed to you, it ends up being held by the state until you claim it. So there's a lot of different sources for this money. And a lot of people are under the impression that there's not a lot of money in here and that it takes a long time and it's super tedious and not worth the effort, but it's actually really easy. They have taken great strides over the last several years to make this database so much easier to use. Statistics show that most claims take less than 5 minutes, which is not very long at all when you think about it. So what you need to do to claim this money is go to missingmoney.com. This is going to be a multi-state search tool. So it used to be that you had to go to the official .gov address for each and every state you'd ever lived in, plug in your information, and search each state individually. Now, if you're like me and you've lived in a lot of different states because you move around a lot, that got really tedious. Missing money makes it much easier. In fact, let's just show you how this works. So if we come over here to missing money, you can type in your name. Let's say your last name is Smith John Search, okay? See, over 1,000 unclaimed properties. It's going to show you the state that it's held in. The amount is going to be approximated. Sometimes it's under 25, sometimes it's over 100. 25 to 50 undisclosed. It's going to tell you the reporting business name of who owed you that money and some other information to try to help you pin down if that belongs to you. So if you do see money in here that belongs to you, it's easy. You just click claim on the ones that belong to you, and then you click down here at view claimed properties, and then that's going to pull up more information, and then you can click the relationship and file claim and follow that process through to the end until you've claimed the money that you are owed. You do usually need a photo ID and documentation, but most states are going to allow you to upload that. Should be really easy, and you can usually get that money within 2 to 8 weeks, which is huge, right? Especially when you consider that the average claim is worth over $1,000. I don't know about you, but a surprise check of that value seems like it would be very, very helpful to me. So let's talk about some other things, okay? This next one isn't strictly government money, but it's still valuable and it still could help you out. So you may be owed money if you were injured or harmed by a product or service, or if a company violated your rights, okay? And there's 2 different ways that these happen. The first is class action settlements. These provide compensation when a company harms many people at once. So think things like data breaches or recalled product or things of that nature where one company did something that affected a significant number of people. These class action settlements are often initiated by a couple of different people, and then everyone who is affected can join in, and the payout is divided among everyone who filed claims. That's why class action settlement payouts tend to be very small. Often they're $10 or less, sometimes they're more. I have seen them upwards of several $100s in the past, but they're generally lower than what you're going to see from something like a tort case. Tort cases are typically injury claims, and that's when you claim compensation for personal harm from an accident or a product or something specific. For example, there are open cases right now for people who have suffered consequences from video game addiction, exposure to certain chemicals, and so on. We have a partner that can help you with those if you are eligible. So to get these settlements for injury claims, those are going to be the ones with the higher payouts. You need to go to lirlinks.com/claims to connect with our sponsor Injury Claims, and they have a big long list of open claims. Let me show you guys this. So you just need to go to lirlinks.com/claims. That's going to bring you here to our sponsor Injury Claims, and then you can scroll through all of their open cases. So you can see there's, auto accidents, video game addiction, social media effects, all sorts of different things here for people who have been affected by products in different ways. They can even help you with VA benefits, Social Security, disability, and more. And so when you come here and you're scrolling through, if you see one that you might be eligible for, like the video game one, you can either call or you click Join Today. If you click Join Today, then you've got some questions you can answer. Click Do I Qualify? And they'll help you figure out if this is something that you might be eligible for. Super easy to do, and like I said, it's a free phone consultation, so there's no obligation there. And then for the class actions, those are a little bit more complicated and a little harder to find, right? So we've done our best to make this easier for you. So if you come over to our website, lowincomerelief.com, you'll see this big banner here. If you enter your email address here and click subscribe, we'll send you the list of all the ones that we've found that we think you might be interested in. If you want to go look for them on your own, the best website that I have found for this is classaction.org/settlement. So when you get here, you can see a list of all of the open settlements, approximately how much they're going to pay out, what the deadline is, whether or not you need proof, so on. One of the things you need to be aware of as you evaluate these is that there are often strict dates as to when the thing had to have happened in order for you to be eligible. And just because there is no proof required doesn't mean everyone can get it. You have to meet the specific requirements. For example, for this one, you have to have purchased a single-day Sierra at Tahoe ski lift ticket between these dates and have this, right? So a lot of times there's multi-step criteria that you have to be aware of. Find one that you might be interested in. You click Visit the Official Settlement website, right? And now this is taking you to the questions, right? And you can figure out, like, what does the settlement provide? This amount is going to be divided up among everybody. And then what you need to do to get a piece of that is click Submit Claim. So it says to update an existing claim, please enter the notice of ID and confirmation code. This trips up a lot of people. When we were covering class action settlements in our weekly videos, we had a lot of people saying, well, I don't have a code, I can't submit this is useless, and so on. You just need to come over here, because this is to update an existing claim, right? To file a new claim, you've got to come over here and click here, right? So that's how you get in on that. Now, not all of these websites look the same. You can come over here and open up a couple of them, and they're all going to be different. But ultimately, the claim form should always be easy to find, right? So that wraps up settlements, but there's one more thing I want to talk to you about, and that is property tax exemptions and refunds, because this is one of the sneakiest ways that the government might owe you money that most people don't know about. In fact, we get emails about this all the time. So here's the deal. If you own your own home, you might not know this, but the county often offers property tax exemptions for seniors, people with disabilities, veterans. There's usually a standard homestead exemption. I've seen people get exemptions because they have trees on their land, or because they're doing other things with it, or for certain land uses. There's so many options out there. They're not very well advertised. This is something that you have to look into and find on your own usually. Now, when you do find these, I have found in some areas, especially in Washington state, that some counties will actually let you claim refunds for past years. So when I helped a friend of mine find out that they were eligible for a property tax exemption a number of years ago, they not only got their current taxes discounted and their mortgage reduced because of it, they also received a check for the last 3 years of overpayments, which was a huge blessing for them to receive that check at that time. These savings can add up drastically. They can amount to hundreds or even thousands of dollars per year, depending on the value of your property and the nature of the exemption that you qualify for. But because there's over 3,000 different counties across America, it gets a little complicated. So to check for this, the first thing you need to do is visit your county tax assessor. You can do this by going into the office in person or just looking on their website. You want to search for property tax relief, property tax exemptions, sometimes like a homestead exemption, things like that. And oftentimes you'll find that they have many different programs available, right? There might be one rate for seniors, one rate for veterans. And what you want to do is you want to look at all of the ones that you might qualify for, because usually, like, they're not going to stack. You have to pick one in most cases. So you want to make sure that you're picking the one that's going to be the best benefit for you personally. Once you know what you want to do, then you just need to ask them how to apply for it. You can often do it online. Sometimes you have to bring paperwork into the office, but the amount of savings that you can achieve makes it very much worth that trip. Now, if you don't qualify for an exemption and your property taxes seem really high and you're having a hard time, it might be worth appealing that assessment if you think that they have overestimated the value of your home. If that happens, then they can reduce, potentially depending on their findings, they might reduce the assessment of your home, which could reduce the amount of taxes that you owe as well. All right, that's all I have for you in today's video. I hope you'll take a minute to go check out our other videos for more ways to save money and get free stuff. I'll see you there.